Hey y'all, welcome to Art of the Budget. My name's Nicole, my pronouns are she and her, and I live in the Pacific Northwest on what is the traditional territory of the Coast Salish nations. It is time for my August 2019 budget reconciliation, and it's a reckoning. It's a reckoning. I do want to ask you guys down below. I watch a lot of folks do their reconciliations, and sometimes they go over, sometimes y'all go over. And I'm wondering, what do you do when you go over your budget, when you're reconciling at the end of the month? Do you take it out of your emergency fund? Do you have some other system? Do you budget in some kind of buffer? Let me know down below what your strategy is. As you can see, I am over this month. I've reconciled the budget and I'm 83.27 over. Now, you might remember that I had a few things come up this month. The big thing being that I bought a new cell phone. It wasn't new, a new to me cell phone. And that was $350. So I did have about $150 in my sinking fund for technology. And that was helpful, but it was still about $200 that I wasn't planning to spend. On top of that, I took on another side hustle for the fall quarter, which starts at the end of the month. If you don't know, I work in academia, and I decided that I needed to step up my meal prep game, and I bought a used freezer to store those meal prepped meals in, and that was $75. That was not budgeted for. So let's see how it all shakes out. If you're new here, I'm Nicole. I'm an artist and educator currently learning about budgeting, saving, and planning for the future and sharing that with other artists or any of you who might be interested. Okay, so I am just going to go over the highlights here in good old EveryDollar. I was planning on $3,000 and I brought in about $88.34 over. I did have a reimbursement of $38.28. And that was for mileage for driving somewhere for my job. Normally that goes right into my car sinking fund, but let's be honest, I need all the help I can get this month. My interest income, well, we already talked about that. That goes right into my little savings thing. Sharing my income, I was over a little bit. I planned to share about $160 and I shared $176.80 total. Okay, going on down. Rent, house, all that stuff was pretty usual. Gas, I was even a little under. I was planning for $100. Groceries, I was over. Instead of $300, I spent $369.21. Now that kind of sucks, but what I do know is that some of that food that I bought is now meal prepped and sitting in the freezer for fall quarter. And so I did more than just feed myself this month. I kind of have a tendency to go over anyway, but I went over and I have a good amount of food in that freezer to show for it. So I feel like in a way that's not ideal, but it kind of balances out. Restaurants, I went over, I'd planned for 100 and I went over 142.60. I often go over and I really need to think about changing that budget number. And I will think about that maybe in October. Household, this is where I put that freezer. So that was $75. And so I was a bit over. I'd planned for 10 and I went over 82.35. Moving on down, I'd planned for 200 for the kitties, and I was a little over at 214.74. I did spend $6 at the fair. That was not budgeted for, but I'm not sweating that too hard, if I'm being honest. Okay, most of this stuff is pretty usual. My debt stuff is usual. Tech fund, it looks like after my 150 or whatever was already in there, I needed to put about $193.67, so about $200 in there to make up for that phone purchase. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm 83.27 over. And I think that the way that I'm going to deal with this, and I would, again, love to hear your suggestions if there's a better way, is I'm going to create a transaction into my emergency fund. Sorry for all the scrolling. There you are. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to create a transaction for $83.27 so that that comes out of my emergency fund. And then I'm going to create miscellaneous income for $83.27. I think that should balance it out correctly. I would love, again, to hear any tips y'all have. If any of you are using everydollar. Okay, so $83.27, this is miscellaneous income. And I'm going to make a note on this. That it's funds from my emergency fund, in case I ever need to reference that again. So $83.27, I'm going to call that income. This is now an every dollar budget. I will move that money over in my bank account. You guys know that I use credit cards that are paid off every single month, almost every single month. No, every single month except for one time I had to pay interest, the tiniest little bit of interest, but I use credit cards and to get travel points, and therefore I don't have to worry about my checking account overdrafting. So that's why I'm able to budget monthly, blah, blah, blah. Let me know how your August went, and let me know if you have any tips for what to do when you bust the budget. Have a wonderful September. I hope things are going great, and I will talk to you later.